when I'm working on a stomach, I'm not doing a manipulation or something like that of the organs.
Right.
Yes, I get it. They will get softer. They'll start to shift. They'll organize. That I totally concur with. But my intent is the vertebrae in a sense and the pelvic and stuff. So when I'm down here, I'm actually going after it as if I was doing this.
Yeah, okay.
So as if I was, if I'm here, you know what I mean? As if I could do this.
Okay, yeah.
The same thing too in the pelvic region, as if I could go in and actually and see, and then I can get into that chest cavity and really work on that torque that would happen throughout here and on the inside of the sacrum,
Yeah.
which you can't take people's parts off and do it.
Right.
So what I was sort of doing on you yesterday, in a sense, when you were on your side, when I said I was working on the inside of the chest cavity, when I was here, it was as if I could do this and work on the inside of your rib cage.
Yeah.
But I was doing it through here.
Right.
So, I don't know if this helps you with your visualization or
Yeah.
not. So,
Yeah.
so the same thing. So if I come here with somebody, right, my intention, see, when I'm on the iliac crest, is to get in and really go for that movement throughout that lower vertebrae, especially when you're coming here
Yeah.
and here. So I'm not trying to twist and snap that off, but I'm trying to get this section, let's say, to facilitate that kind of movement, which is very hard to get at.
Yeah.
And I don't think people appreciate it. The spinal column, especially on Frank, is like a rod, but at the same time, if I had beads, that's what a spine should be. If I could just pick you by your head, you should be. So there's a lot of conversations as to when to bring someone over their system. And what I call over their system is not necessarily that they are leaning forward per se. Well, what I'm looking for is really for the pelvis to go in and see how the pubic bone actually rotates into the floor. So it stabilizes the spine that way versus creating what you see a lot is the fold over in the system. Just think of, so I'm going to do a couple of different things here. So just to help you visualize, I'll go on this side for the camera, the lungs. So when most people are just here, the lungs are going to start to settle in the chest cavity this way. And so breathing will start to be compromised. You're not going to have the draw as well with the diaphragm or the chest expansion, especially if the system lies down all the time. So it's not that I'm trying to bring someone to sitting before they have the head control, before they have all of this, that I expect them to sit and walk. But what I want their system to feel, and it actually is a milestone, is their system hitting into the chest cavity. So if I come over, these lungs will start, in a sense, like a massage into the chest cavity. And for some kids, just having that initial hit causes a startle. You'll see it all the time, especially when the babies, when they roll over for the first time, I'm literally either holding the head or holding the chest cavity. And I'm like, that's okay, just breathe. Even when I'm rolling them over slightly from here, and I'm lightly rolling over, see how the chest, the lungs would hit the floor here sooner than this, and at some point, the lungs will go from this position, which is back, into where it comes against the chest cavity. So when people say, oh, my child has sensory integration disorder, I think a lot of that is just that the organs haven't found, in a sense, their home. So they're not used to working within themselves. And also what's really interesting that I'm finding with the chest cavity, when I'm here, my chest can expand. When my chest expands to breathing, my diaphragm actually will come up, not go long. People think because I'm expanding the chest, the diaphragm goes long at the same time. It actually doesn't. The diaphragm will come up where it breathing in, and so when I exhale, that's when the diaphragm, for the most part, will go long. But when this happens, when the lungs expand, what it's doing, I believe, it's going after the heart, and it's massaging the whole sac around cardiac function, which creates a system where you don't have the fluids or the pressure on the heart. The edema is less, or functioning more ideally. So when you do have a system that's back here, see again, his lungs just drop, you're not getting the same kind of vital or organ function just based off of lung heart function. I have a somewhat chronic lung disease, so I'm more than aware about when your kid's not breathing. But one of the things I'm going to show with you again is a lot of the kids, in a sense, right here, because they're so worried about toppling over, they have a very bad inflection that comes here for whatever reason. So I'm going to snuggle around the chest cavity. You will not see me in this position where I'm back here. I'm using my vestibular just as much as that person's vestibular. And so there's different ways of approaching it, but what I want to do is I'll actually hit, if I can. Obviously, if I'm working with a grown adult, I'll stay up a little bit higher, but what I'm looking to do is hit the pubic bone. I'll actually expand my belly and chest too, and I'm bringing that back. But what I don't stay tucked, so I'm not holding it in, because again, I don't want to cancel out the movement by doing this way. What I'm doing is I'm rotating that ball forward. So my hand will actually drop down, but I'll still be holding, and then I'll bring it back in. So this is a first initiation too, and you'll see it. Like I have this little guy I work with Santino, and he has this so well, even though he doesn't have the arm and the hand function. This ability, thank y'all, to move from the sit bones into the pubic bone and back again is just so clear for him. But most people, or especially kids with cerebral palsy and stuff, don't have a clear relationship of the pubic bone going down and you're actually going over the ischiums that they wag. So it's almost like skateboarding. So I should be able to, in a sense, wag my sit bones as well as wag my tail through the sacrum. But when I do that, when my tailbone wags, that's where you're going to start seeing the femur function come in more and all of that in the sitting. The more that the system has that gyroscopic function down here, you're going to see and want much less head momentum. When this is very stagnant, you're going to see much more of the head doing this, and the pelvic gets very narrow. And that's where I like to talk about, like where you were feeling, you get more real estate. Like your tush just feels like it's more in here. So if I'm back here, right, and I want to, yeah, it's there, come over, let's say, to sit there and work on my upper body. See, again, this is where that dystonia starts kicking in, because I need to do abnormal things with my extremities to get what looks like sitting up. But a much easier function would be, obviously, to get that pelvis just to rotate. I might still have my head down, but that starts becoming a different function, like this, to start moving, that all of a sudden when it clicks, and you're there for it, and that's what you were seeing towards the end of the lesson yesterday, because I was bringing out the vision with Diane, and then I just still kept there, and that's the first time she's starting to feel that extension going down into the table where the head stays stable. And that's a much higher way of being, just like you're playing on that ball, of being able to do that versus, that's so much. And look, my eyes just go. I don't have any kind of direct target, but if I can do this, again, where the pelvis becomes more of a gyroscope. So once it does start doing that left to right, see, and then I have the counter here, which is much more functional versus my vision of countering being, this is what I have to do to stabilize this.
Yeah.
So that's why I know you thought it was sort of funny, but I don't believe babies are born with dystonia. You start to see it in severe cases, maybe 8 to 9 months, where they quote get the diagnosis, but that's where, again, the ATNR has failed them to such a point, and they really have to go into this, don't fall, don't, you know. That's what I see versus this being a spasticity out of cerebral palsy. So if you go back to where that central nervous system is functioning more, and even in that case, you know, that, or like I was saying, you'll see me roll over so slowly, because if I see this, then I'll back it up, because to me that's the lung hitting the chest cavity. And so they want to go backwards. That kills the movement. And then they go back to here, which again was a fall. And I'm making their scenario successful. I don't want that. So I sit there and sit there. But it's that same pretense. I'm just looking for that belly or that ball, the chest cavity, to slowly roll over this way. And even that's what I got with Cupcake, because before even her, you know, to do the low tone kind of thing was more here. And then when she learned that she could do this, you know, and again, those two opposing forces, they're synchronizing up, you know, boom.